Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions for another full hour live on WHP 580, 540-0580. I got Drew Daya with me. Drew, what's going on, brother? Drew, you still there? Wait a minute. Drew.
Yes, can you hear me, Carl?
I got you. I didn't have you up. I guess you must I don't know. The phones.
The phones.
You know, Durgan says, the phones! Art, what's wrong with my phone? All right, anyhow. So, Drew, you going to help me out with a few more legal questions here?
Yeah, sure.
Going to keep you for a little... What, we got big plans for the afternoon?
No, there's no Penn State today, so...
That's true.
Really.
And Drew, what happened the last time you watched the Penn State game? You woke up like 3 states away, so we're going to be careful.
Yes, exactly. It was a good day for Penn State.
Well, it was good, right?
Yes.
540-0580. Let's see who's next. Cindy, you have a question about power of attorney.
Yes, well, I have several questions. All revolves around some actions of my stepdaughter. My husband recently passed away. Prior to his passing in 2005, he appointed his daughter as executrix of his estate and gave her full durable power of attorney. Before he died, and I was with him the last 6 days here in my home prior to his passing, tending to him just about 24/7.
Okay.
His daughter was here. Again, prior to his death, she started going through all of his papers. She took boxes and boxes of what I thought was only pictures. I have now found out that she destroyed check registers from 2010, which had my name on the checking account. And I would like to know, and this was done while I was here, again, before his death.
Right.
I would like to know if I can charge her with trespassing.
Well, I mean, maybe. Well, she was there without anybody's permission, right?
Well, she was here because her father was dying, and I could not and would not certainly keep her from her father dying.
Right.
You know, being here.
Well, then it may not be trespassing in the strictest sense. Why do you think she was destroying this stuff?
Right.
Carl, she was here, and she just threw out bags and bags of what a lot of them were old records, maybe old electric bills or something like that. But I know that she also destroyed last year's check registers up to this year, all the registers from 2010 on back, everything, all the records. I mean, drawers are empty here. He had his own room where she went and went through all of his paperwork, and then he also had a den where his desk was kept, and she went through that and just took and took and took while I was tending to her father.
Interesting.
I mean, literally boxes enough to fill her car.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out what her intent was. I mean, you think she's trying to hide something, or?
I don't know. I don't know what her intent was. Her actions at the time she finally gave me a copy of his will would have indicated that she was, trying to hide something from me, yes.
Right. Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, I get...
Maybe just a sort of a breach of her duties as the executrix of the state.
Well, I would certainly think so.
Yeah.
And do you think? Well, let me ask it this way:
she was not executrix until he died. She did this prior to his.
Prior to, right?
Right.
And of course, where did he leave? Did he leave everything to her?
He left most of it. Most of his estate went to his children, to his 2 children.
Okay.
The bulk of his estate went to them.
And
I'm in the process right now.
Attorney
Yes, and I'm in the process right now of getting an inventory of his estate. But yes, he gave her power of attorney, full power of attorney, back in 2005.
Did you think about taking against the will?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you have the ability to take against the will, so.
Yes, we're in the process of now of, as I say, getting an inventory of his estate. But I also realize that half of this house, which is now mine, has to be thrown into the pot. Half the value of the house.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And do I understand it correctly that no matter whose name was on what, that still gets thrown into the pot? Am I correct?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I guess if it's in his name, it's definitely going to get thrown into the pot. If it was in your name only, but it wasn't, it depends whether it might not get thrown into the pot.
Nothing was in my name other than, I mean, I have half the house because my name was on the deed.
Right, but that's a joint asset, so that's definitely in the pot.
It is, yes, but as long as he had control, which he did. I mean, he was not sick. Right. He had total control of all of his assets until he died. I would think that no matter whose name is on that I can still throw that into the pot.
Well, you're saying whose name was on? What, did you have like an in trust for account or something like that?
Joint accounts, things of that nature.
Okay, yeah, some portion of the joint account may be assignable to the estate. Yes. All right. Well, you got an attorney working on it, I hope.
I do. I just wanted to know how you felt about charging her with trespass.
It wasn't really trespass per se because she had permission or ability to be there.
Yeah, she did. But did she have the ability?
Sounds like theft.
To start going through all of the papers prior to his death before she was executrix.
Yeah, I don't know. The short answer is, though, it sounds like a form. Maybe theft, but then again, he'd be the one who'd have to complain about it, right?
This is all done before he died.
I understand.
And he was bedridden. He was.
It doesn't sound kosher, but I'm not sure it's actionable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just concentrate on taking against the estate.
Okay, taking my 1/3 elective share.
Yeah, and of course there's an adjustment because there's going to have to be, because there's biological children from a former marriage. There's some. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So there's some adjustment for them as well. It's not the straight third.
But as I understand, I'm still on. I was reading I did research on the internet. As I understand it, no matter if they are from this marriage or former marriage, I'm still entitled to 1/3 of my elective share.
But there's an adjustment in there with the kids, and I'm trying to remember what that is. When they're biological kids of a different marriage, I think you get the first so much, or somebody gets the first so much, then you guys split something after that.
Right.
Okay.
Have you really? Do you have an attorney working on this? Cindy, sitting down with the attorney and gone over all this?
Yes, I am going to see him in more detail this coming week.
Okay. Well, he'll fill you in on that.
Okay.
All right.
Is the other gentleman trying to say something to me that I did?
Drew was just agreeing with me, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I pay him to do that.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Cindy.
He's in agreement. And thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Not a problem. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here with Drew Deo answering your legal questions. By the way, if you get a chance and you're driving through Carlisle, our office address is 155 South Hanover Street. We happen to have put up a holiday sign to celebrate the holidays, and so we covered up our regular sign with a new sign. And I'm not going to tell you what it is right now, but if you do get a chance, or you can go to my Facebook page or go to the Rominger and Associates Facebook page, and you can see the new sign, and I want to see your comments on it. So without telling you what it is, go to Facebook and look up Rominger and Associates, or just go to Carlisle and drive by 155 South Hanover Street and let us know what you think. 540-0580. When I get back from the break, I'll take more of your questions. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. Answering some legal questions here. Who's next? Bill, you're on the air. Bill.
Hey, Carl, thanks for your program.
Thank you.
These cell phones, up in Harrisburg about 2 years ago, there was a thing they were going to put out a law, you can't use a cell phone driving a car.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went away, and they never said one way or the other. Now they say that text messaging is against the law. What's the story on just having a cell phone up to your ear going down the road? Hello?
I think under the new law, that's not prohibited. But the way I see it, they made it a primary offense, so the police can pull you over, and they're going to go, well, here's what they're going to go. I had reasonable suspicion, because that's all it takes, that he might have been texting. No, as I say, might have been, right? Because he had a cell phone in his hand. Well, where was it? Well, it was against his ear, but, it was in his hand. So he could have been texting, or he could have been on the internet, or he could have been violating the new cell phone law. So now the police can pretty much pull you over for any reason at all if you have a cell phone in the car. And, of course, an unscrupulous officer who's going to do the math can just say, I pull a guy over for any reason, I'll just claim I saw the cell phone in his hand.
Right.
And since everybody and their brother owns a cell phone, I guess there's more cell phones than people in the United States now officially. Pretty much any officer can stop anybody any reason, any time. If he sees a cell phone, and an unscrupulous officer can probably say he saw a cell phone in your hand and he thought you were about to text, or was texting, or checking a text, or just looking at the screen.
So another way it's going, when I'm going down the highway and I'm talking on my cell phone up to my ear and I see a cop, I take the cell phone down. Is that worth trying to do? It don't matter.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. Put it on speakerphone.
Okay. Thanks for all of humanity. Appreciate you. Bye.
No problem. I think that's why a few people who were opposed to the cell phone bill were opposed to it was because it made it as a primary offense. They can't pull you over for not having a seatbelt, Drew, but they can pull you over for having a cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then with the seatbelt, well, I guess that's the way it used to be. They could pull you over, and if you had the cell phone and they were, could prove that you were using it as a secondary offense, they could tack a fine on.
Right.
But I guess now that can be the reason for the pullover.
And of course, then it leads to whatever. And, I know, I'm not breaking any laws, and I never break any laws, so I don't have a problem with the government just stopping me. Well, why don't we just put up the checkpoints? Get your papers together, prove your citizenship with your papers, prove your lineage with your Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that's Nazi Germany.
Right.
Anyhow.
Now, I know up in New York they've had it for years. My sister lives up there, but everybody's gone to the Bluetooth. They just talk when the
right. Right. And I was driving around in New York State the other day with my cell phone in hand. I guess I'm a scofflaw of some sort.
Yeah.
You forget when you're in Pennsylvania and you cross the border, you got to set it down. Kathy, you're on with Carl and Drew. Kathy.
Yes, hi. I've got a question surrounding HIPAA and medical power of attorney.
Okay.
I'll try to give you a really brief background. I have a family member that was recently taken in the hospital in North Carolina. He was brought into the emergency room. He's actually suicidal. I come to find out there are some medical issues with his kidneys, and they're trying to stabilize him medically until they move him to a healthcare facility.
Right.
But what's challenging is that every time I call down there, I'm from Pennsylvania, they're saying they can't even give me any information on him because of the HIPAA. And my concern is when he does get medically stabilized and they move him to a mental health facility,
right.
I'm not even sure they're going to be able to tell me where they moved him. And I have there's no medical POA in place.
Okay.
Is there any suggestions of next steps? I mean, because he is very, very ill.
So is there anybody who they talk with regularly besides you?
Well, he's got some children, but they don't have POA, and the children went to the hospital also physically, and they're just not releasing information. And the person who's very mentally sick right now is not allowing. He doesn't want to have anybody involved in his life.
Well, and I guess that may be his choice.
Sorry?
That may be his choice, right?
Well, the hospital is saying that because he is in the mental state that he is, that they're forcing, if he does not cooperate, they will force him to, take medicines and, such like that. But hopefully he'll get through that part and want to, continue to be part of this world, so to speak. And then after that, we as family members, we want to support him and such, but the HIPAA it's maddening, I guess, for me, because we try to call down there and, they're like, well, if he doesn't want to talk to you, we can't make him.
Can't make him, right. All right. And I mean, that's his prerogative. I think.
Well, it is, Carl, but he is so mentally sick right now that he, quite frankly, doesn't even know, which end is up. So
right. No,
he's not in the right mind, and obviously I can't get him to sign a medical POA because, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to be of sound mind.
You have to be competent at the time you create a POA, correct?
Right, and he is not.
And I just see it as a catch-22. The only other way would be to get a guardianship through the court.
And what does that mean?
That it's like being a POA, except it's through a court order, and you say this person isn't capable of making their own decisions, and I'm a person that will help, guard their person or their estate.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, a court's going to want to know why you want to do that, and they have to actually be incompetent.
Now, has he been declared incompetent by the hospital staff?
Well, when you say incompetent, the
competency and being crazy are two different things.
Okay.
Right, and it's kind of interesting. For a power of attorney, the competency decision is not actually made by the doctor; it's made by the lawyer. And if a lawyer feels that he's competent enough to understand what power of attorney is and sort of the power that he's giving away, you don't have to be, completely crazy. He might be competent enough to provide a power of attorney.
To sign one, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's not the doctor's call. That would be a lawyer's call, or even your call if you were to go in and talk to him and sort of determine that he is competent enough to understand the power that he's giving up, what power of attorney is. That's really the measuring stick for a power of attorney. He doesn't have to be, fully competent, as long as he understands what he's giving away.
Well, help me understand, though, and maybe I'm mixing the two things, the HIPAA and the POA, is if he would sign a POA, allowing his family members information on him and such, is that the same as, when we call the hospital and they say, no, we can't give you any information because of HIPAA laws?
HIPAA laws, it's his right of privacy. If you're his guardian or his POA, then you're going to have access to that information. In other words, the privacy right isn't implicated.
Okay, so we could get information on
right.
it. And can more than one person be on a POA?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But you know what? Here's the problem. The problem is if he is competent and he doesn't want you guys to be involved, that's his prerogative. And as painful as that is, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that is because he's not thinking clearly.
No, but again, it's not. He might not be thinking clearly, but
that's putting it mildly, quite frankly.
It reminds me of the time, they had a guy in the stand whose family was all upset because he's giving away millions of dollars, and he takes a stand and he says, "I hate my kids and I don't want them to have any money."
Right. No, I understand. This is unfortunate, and so I'm abridging the story here, of course, or the situation. Yeah. But he's had a long series and now of emotional issues, but he's always been able to function, also to some degree, and then he lost his job and everything else, and that just, quote-unquote, put him on the deep end, and now he's just totally really bad.
Yeah, and Kathy, again, I just keep coming back to, even if he's really bad, it's his. I mean, listen, if I'm a little kooky or I'm a little off the deep end, I'm still entitled to run my own life until I become an immediate danger to myself or others.
And he is a danger to himself, and that's why they're keeping him in
right.
the hospital.
Right. So
and so once what I was able to squeak through some information is that they're trying to get him medically stable and then move him to a health care facility, and they are saying that I'm willing to sign papers for that, but the hospital is at least telling me that they're not even asking for any papers to be signed. They're doing it involuntary.
Right. And they have that ability, and that's all reviewed by a court. So
it is
mental health court. If he has an involuntary commitment, there's going to be a mental health court involved.
See, the hospital's telling me that they don't have to do anything; they can move him.
Well, I mean, they may be able to move him, but whatever his treatment or holding him involuntarily is going to be reviewed by a mental health court. The hospital can't just imprison you.
Oh, really?
So he's either self-committing himself,
right, which he is not,
or he's being held there, and that's subject to a Mental Health Hearing Act, blah, 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 blah. So,
and that's state or countrywide?
Well, you know what? That's Pennsylvania law.
Yeah, this is North Carolina.
Okay, well, North Carolina, they may not have immediate court review, so you might want to talk to a North Carolina lawyer about how to get court review of that, and then get you back to the guardianship aspect. And, of course, that also reminds me to caution everybody who's listening. Remember that we only discuss Pennsylvania law here on the show. We do have lawyers in the office who do New Jersey and New York, but as a rule, we only talk about Pennsylvania because every state is definitely different. All right?
Okay, thanks for your time.
Not a problem. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Got Drew Deo from the office here as well. Cindy, you're on the air.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
What's
Hello?
going on?
Oh, okay. This is a little complicated, so I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. My father, 3 years ago, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
And he died 3 months later. Now, just before he was diagnosed, he was divorced from my stepmother, and he had a girlfriend. Okay? While he was very ill, his last visit in the hospital, he was on morphine drip 24 hours, a day, and he came home from the hospital with the morphine drip.
Right.
About 3 or 4, maybe 5 days before he actually died, the stepmother and the girlfriend got in cahoots together, made an agreement that they would get my father to change his will so that they came out with more than what was in the, than the way the will was stated.
Right.
So my first question is, that close to his death and being on morphine drip 24 hours a day, is that even a legal, is that something that would stand up in court?
The will?
Yes.
I mean, if he had testamentary capacity, yes. And that's, again, a determination that we made on a totality of circumstances. And the lawyer who wrote it, did the lawyer write the will?
The same lawyer that wrote the original will is the one that changed it, but he was not there. The girlfriend made the phone call, told him what they wanted to do. They put my father on the phone, and then my father just said yes, and then that was the end of that.
Well, interesting. That would create a little bit of a problem because, and Drew, if you probably would agree with me on this, one of the things is I met with the client, I looked at the client, they were oriented to time and space, they were very the same as I always remember them being. So, yeah, there is definitely a case.
If the lawyer only talked to him on the phone and didn't see him at all when he changed it, it certainly does present an issue.
So it could be challengeable, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not a guarantee, though.
I spoke to the lawyer that did that, and he told me that he should never have done that.
Oh, well, there you go.
After the fact, yeah.
Well, that should answer your question. There may be a real problem there. So, Cindy, yes, you may want to challenge this will.
Okay, now, a little complication.
Can I put you on hold because I go to break? Hold on a second.
Okay, right.
Put Cindy on hold here, 540-0580. Call in with your legal questions. We'll answer them for another half hour here live on the air. See you after the break. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions, joined by Drew Deo. And Drew, I want to just remind everybody, if they haven't had a chance to go drive by 155 South Hanover Street to see our holiday display. I mean, it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. Although I've heard from some of the secretaries at the office that a couple of people have gotten lost. They didn't realize where we were exactly located. That's the only downfall of the sign thus far. But
well, we're going to have to let people know when they're looking for the office what to look for and give them the new revised name of the law offices.
Right.
Anyhow, it's a little bit of an inside joke, but if you go to Facebook and look up Rominger and Associates, or just look up Carl Rominger and friend us or like us, whatever you need to do, you can get a picture of the new sign. And of course, if you just drive by 155 South Hanover Street in Carlisle, you can see it too. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll talk about it on the air and tell you what it is.
Yeah,
but
we can drop the name.
We can drop the name, but I really want you to do your homework here. Cindy, you've been holding patiently with us. What was your next question here?
Okay, so to complicate things a little bit, my father had a business, and that was the part of the will that they were having changed. One of my brothers grew the business for my father over the last 10 years.
Right.
When he found out my father was sick, he off and on had alcohol-related problems. And when he found out my father was sick, he went off the deep end. And the controlling number of shares were to be left to him, and that was known by everyone for 15 years.
Right.
So, of course, they had this changed. In the divorce, the stepmother got like 40-some%. She had him changed to take a certain percentage out of my brother's to her son.
Mm-hmm.
That together they had controlling interest then. Now, since then, my brother that had these shares has died. So now his heirs, I'm assuming, will get
those shares. Yeah, that's going to create a whole level of complication, there's no doubt.
I know. And so I guess we're kind of wondering, his eldest daughter is 28, and she's kind of handling his estate for her father, my brother. So we're kind of wondering how to proceed now, because what she would like to do, and it's not for any personal gain on my part nor my niece's, but we feel like my brother was really cheated out of what was supposed to be his.
Right.
So what we would like to do is still contest my father's will, which is still open for some reason. It has not been closed yet.
And how long ago was it opened?
Well, he died 3 years ago.
So there may be a problem contesting the will because you may have run out of time.
Right.
Oh, even if it's open?
Yeah, I think you have to contest a will. I think it's about within a year of it being probated.
Well, part of the other problem, more complications, was we were trying to get my brother, the one who had the shares, to contest the will. But he really went off the deep end, and he was not capable of doing that.
Right.
An attorney that we contacted, one of my other brothers and we contacted an attorney, and he said that my brother was the only one that could contest it, that we could not contest it.
He may have been the only one withstanding, but I don't know the answer to that on the analysis. So here's my point is, if you're going to do something, you need to sit down with a real live lawyer in an office somewhere and look it over quick here, because you may be out of time already.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to belabor all the little details there, but the point of the matter is you, if you think there's a problem or you want to do something, you got to do it quick. And sometimes even if you think somebody should have done something, you lose time.
Absolutely.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here with Drew Deo answering your legal questions. I want to remind you can go to Facebook and like Rominger and Associates, or you can friend me on there and get some exclusive content. And, of course, you can see that sign we're talking about. But you can also go to weekendappointment.com and get the free will kit. And I want to make sure I encourage people to do that. You can't beat it if you want a free will. Or if you just want me to go over your old wills and just make sure they're still good. Things change. We'll also go over other estate aspects and planning aspects as well. So go to weekendappointment.com to learn more about that. And let's see. Tom's next. Tom.
Hello?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I just want to run something by you here, Carl. It's about this 10-state thing. Everybody seems to be kind of crucifying all these university officials because they didn't make any phone calls. Well, it's beyond me that none of these boys, and maybe particularly the parents, why didn't they call the police? You know what I mean?
I thought the same type of thing. I was an avid Penn State guy, so I was a little biased when the whole thing started eventually. But sort of jumping on to, why didn't Joe contact the police? There's sort of immediate feeding for we don't even know what Joe knew.
Yeah.
I know today I read in passing this morning that somebody sent us he had never brought the allegations to his attention. So we're all crucifying why didn't they pass on this information.
Yeah.
We don't know what information they really even had to pass on.
Yeah, I mean these it's unbelievable that none of the little boys themselves, and 8 and 10 and 12-year-old boys can pick up a phone. They know what to do, and the parents, none of these people called the police. It doesn't make sense.
And I think with the 98 allegation that police were involved in that one. And I could be wrong about that, but I know there was a district attorney that was involved at one point.
Guy-Car, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And I just want to mention something, that people, the press and the public, particularly the press, wanted to crucify this Casey Anthony, and boy, get a tree and a rope, and man, we'll go out and hang this woman. But what did the jury say? Okay?
Right.
What did the jury say about Casey Anthony?
He said not guilty.
Right. Have a good afternoon.
All right, my friend. 540-0580. Gary, you're on the air.
Hello, Carl.
Hey, what's going on?
I have a question about a charge that I received recently, driving while impaired.
Okay.
When I got the information in the mail, the name on the information that was sent to me was incorrect. My middle name is entirely incorrect.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if that would have any bearing on my case.
The short answer is it could become an issue, but it doesn't sound like a real winner as long as somebody catches it and or the police ultimately identify you as the guy.
Well, they have the address correct, they have the birth date correct, but I'm just wondering if a mistake of law of that nature, how they could go about actually having the middle name just entirely wrong. Would they just drop the charges and then refile them?
Or I get that question quite a bit. And really, clerical errors like that, they're not winner. I mean, ultimately, if he couldn't identify you in court, as the defendant, it would become a problem. But that's the type, a clerical issue, something like that. A lot of people ask the speeding ticket, look, he didn't spell my name right, or he wrote the wrong road down, something like that. As long as his testimony could go back, I screwed that up, I wrote that wrong, misspelled that. Those types of things aren't going to get a case thrown out. Like I said, if ultimately he couldn't identify you as the defendant, then it would become a problem.
So if I change my appearance completely before my arraignment, then I might have
That's exactly what I would do. No, I'm just kidding. But
correct. The second question I would have for Carl would be: is when is he going to get an office in York?
Well, you know what? We actually do have an office in York that we can meet with. You have a conference room that we can use. We don't have like a fully staffed office there, but we can.
Is it possible to send you a personal email? I am registered for your weekendappointment.com.
Yes, but the easiest way, let me give you my personal email address. It's really simple. You ready? Carl, Karl, at Rominger, ROMINGER.com. So it's just my first name at my last name.com.
Okay, I'd like to try that because I work in Lancaster County, but I live in York County, and I wouldn't mind having a little bit more. And the truth is, I realize the chances are that one of your other attorneys would defend me in this situation, I assume.
Yeah, well, you know what? The answer on that is you never know. We kind of go on who's available. Also, sometimes, depending on the complexity of the case, I can offer you, one of the associates because sometimes they're cheaper. For different things, so we go with cost point, etc. But I've got a couple guys in the office, crew included, who I would let represent me in a criminal matter. So,
well, and I'll tell you an interesting thing. This happened on September 10th, and I didn't receive anything in the mail for several months. And the way that I actually found out that I was being charged was that I started getting these advertisements from multiple law firms.
Yep.
And so I actually took the case file number from one of these and went online and found what I was being charged with, and then it was subsequent to that I was actually served with the papers, et cetera, et cetera. But, it was kind of interesting to note that the law firms were actually ahead of the courts as far as getting the information to the public. And but anyway, I will send you an email, and I appreciate your help.
All right, thank you. We've got to go to break here. 540-0580. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. 540-0580. Oh, boy. U.S. Supreme Court took up the health care law. We'll keep you posted as soon as we hear anything, giving an unprecedented number of hours to the matter. And who knows what they're going to do, but we're going to get our answer here in the election year. And, of course, Herman Cain's out of the running, so maybe we'll start thinking about who to endorse for the Republican candidacy at some point here. Shane's hands are up in the air. He's not sure. Nobody from Perry County running, Shane?
I believe so, not this year.
Okay, well.
Not this year.
Maybe someday. Terry, you're on the air with Carl and Drew. Hey, Terry.
Hey, how you doing? I'm sorry.
Good. What's going on?
Good question. A few years ago, my wife brought to my attention she wants a divorce.
Okay.
Well, I don't exactly know where she got her from or what her purpose is. I asked her why. She says, I don't know. Anyway, there were some red flags that I was wondering if I had any leverage on. She wasn't paying the mortgage for a year. Turns out the house was being foreclosed on. It brought to my attention. I contacted the finance company and I fixed it. Then my taxes were done last year, and here she forged my name signing the tax form. Now, is that going against her if for custody and all that hoo-ha?
I mean,
it's
certainly something that could be held against her.
Now, the electric has been turned off for a day. The phone bill has been turned off because she didn't pay that. Obviously, I got an irresponsible wife, I understand. But my point is, she also contacted the local electric company, and what she did was she has it that she lives she told them she lives by herself with a girl, and she has a modified payment plan. She also went to CHIP and used CHIP services, and based on the fact that she lied to them and told them that she was single, and also went to Medicare or using the healthcare system for my children for the same purpose of obviously lying to them, telling them that we're not together.
Right.
So anyway, my point of question to you is, if she would come to if the thing would come to fruition where she says, yes, I want the divorce, do I have? I would think that I would have something to go for my side, wouldn't I?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, here's the other answer. I mean, I don't know anything about you, so, we got to compare the two of you. But if you're a semi-decent person, you're certainly going to have substantial custody. But if the other person is not providing adequately and can't be trusted, that's certainly going to minimize their custody. It's not going to necessarily keep them from having some visitation with the child, though.
I understand. And I think the way it would work is it really doesn't have anything to do with the best interest of the child. So it's not really a factor or a custody factor that a court would consider. But I think where it would come up is if push came to shove and she was testifying, obviously you can attack her credibility, sort of along the lines of judge, can you believe her here today because she forges signatures and she lies to the electric company and those types of things. So you can certainly use that to sort of test her credibility, but it's not a best interest of the child analysis. I mean, it doesn't factor into that.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. A doctor friend of mine had said that, well, if she's not responsible to take care of the payments for the very home that the children live in, then that might be one of those.
That's a good point too, though. I mean, I guess right. You could sort of make the argument it is related to the best interest of the child because she doesn't pay for the roof that covers the child's head, but.
Okay, well that's all I wanted to know. I'm not I'm not looking for the divorce. I don't want it. I just want to. I don't want to be stupid and not think that I have something to stand on if I would ever have to walk that road.
All right, brother.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, not a problem. I don't know. I'm always wondering why people are separated for long periods of time. They're fighting things out. There are all kinds of bad things going on, but they all say they don't want the divorce.
Right.
I don't know. Sherry, you're on with Carl and Drew. Sherry. Did we lose you, Sherry?
Are you saying Sherry?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for taking my call.
Hey, what's going on?
Yes. I have rheumatoid arthritis and Lyme's and a bunch of other diagnoses, and I'm working in pain every day. I told my employer because it's busy I would try to get through to the end of the year, but then I'm having surgery in January, and I won't be working, and I just can't go back and do the work I was doing. I'm in too much pain. And when I called Social Security, they told me that I could apply for disability, but I probably wouldn't get it. Then I have to apply again, and I would, maybe get it, but it might be 6 months to a year till I was able to get any money. And I've been working since I was 14, and I just don't understand why I can't get, like, unemployment or disability or something.
How did you lose your job?
Well, I'm not. I have to have surgery in January, but I just can't do it anymore. I'm in too much pain. I just physically cannot do it.
Did you ask tell your employer that?
Yes, they know that I'm working only to the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Have they tried to find you other types of employment or like different duty that the injury where you wouldn't be in so much pain, anything like that?
Well, I'm a hairdresser, and I stand all day, and I work in a salon, and you either stand all day and work or you don't. There is no,
So you're going to have to stand to do what you do.
What you would do is put your employer on notice that you can no longer work because of these issues. If they can't accommodate you, which they can't, and then they tell you they don't need you anymore, then you can apply for unemployment.
Okay. But so they have to, like...
In order to get unemployment, you have to give your employer notice of the medical issue.
Yes.
If they say, well, you can stay, and we can accommodate you somehow.
Right. They have available, suitable employment for you, you would have to take it. But if they don't, and you're going to have to stand, and that's sort of the
But you can't
the issue.
You can't quit first, because if you don't give your employer a chance to give you suitable employment or modify a job or create one for you, then you wouldn't be eligible for unemployment.
Okay.
All right.
So if I tell my employer, I talk to them. And
I put it in writing. I give them a letter. It says, hey,
put it in writing.
In writing.
Or get something from your doctor, too, would be even better, and present it to the employer.
And present it to my employer.
And if they say we can't accommodate you, then you'll be able to apply for unemployment. If they say they can accommodate you, then you got to take the accommodation. And if they give you a job that doesn't work for you, then you might have to quit and fight it out in court later as to whether or not you were able to actually be accommodated or not.
Okay, so do they have to write a letter saying we can't accommodate you?
Well, they don't have to do anything, but that would be good practice. But if they say, we can't accommodate you, then I would get it in writing from them if I could, and then you can go ahead and apply for unemployment.
And I just call the Social Security office?
No, that's unemployment. That's different than Social Security disability. Unemployment, you got to go to the Unemployment Compensation Office or the Career Link, as Pennsylvania seems to like to call them. All right, I got to go. It's the end of the show, guys. Wayne, Rose, I'm sorry. Call back next week. Wayne, if you want to get a hold of us about ARD, go to romingerlaw.com. The office number is 241-6070. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I'll be back live next week from 1 to 3 to answer your legal questions. Carl Rominger signing out for the day. Go to romingerlaw.com.